The match has finished. West Ham United 1, Bournemouth 0 in quite possibly the worst game of football you're ever likely to see. Well, I say the worst game of football. There were some bright sparks, but West Ham's two best players were certainly defenders in that game. In fact, the Hammers were running kids for £1 in this game, and I think if I was a 10-year-old, I'd be asking for me money back, quite frankly, because that was not good value for money, that's for sure. It was lacklustre, it was insipid. I don't know, perhaps the stats will tell a different result towards the end of the game. The commentator seemed to indicate that West Ham had more shots than Bournemouth. I mean, that must have been a tight one, really. It has to be said. We got a little bit of a change before half-time. Aaron Cresswell got injured in the warm-up, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka got moved to left-back. Soufal played at right-back. To be fair, they both played... Well, one of them played okay in Soufal. Thought he did well, tackled well. Rescued Tadibo very early on in the game. But Wan-Bissaka played very well indeed. Wasn't flawless, but... I have to say, I think Wan-Bissaka is going to become a fan favourite. Now, I'm quite sure that when I get to the end of this, there'll be people saying, oh, you were miserable, get over it, and all the rest of it. That happens, and I just want to make the case that I actually thought Aaron Wan-Bissaka is one positive point. Or going through is another positive point. Aaron Wan-Bissaka really was. I do think he's going to be a crowd favourite. I think he's an exceptional player. I'm really, really glad we've signed him. Really good stint over on left-back. And, of course, Max Kilman, once again, played really, really well. Another positive is that, so this is 3, here you go, lining 3 up in a row. That's another clean sheet. That's incredibly important for the club. Incredibly important. I think, as I mentioned, I think that will have been Lopetegui's #1 priority when he came into the club, to sort out that back line. I don't know if you noticed, but David Moyes and Sam Allardyce have been chirping up over the last few days. I mean, they were talking an awful lot about style of play and whatnot. Look, you can have a crap style of play, and we saw that again. I'm recording this straight after the game. I won't release it until tomorrow morning, but that was a crap style of play. But if you do it, you're going to have to get the results. And we absolutely did. There's no point setting up negatively and then not being able to keep a clean sheet. West Ham set up negatively and we shut Bournemouth out. Look, they had some good chances and we had some shaky performances. I think, well, notably, funny enough, I think both... Tadibo went off at half-time, possibly an injury. I guess you'll know by the time this has been published. And Mavropanos, who replaced him, I thought were both dodgy, actually. Aside from that, the defence performed and played well. That has to happen when you're going to play in this way. The midfield 3, we're going to get to the negatives now. So the midfield 3 was Thomas Souček, Edson Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse. It didn't work last season. It doesn't work this season. It's not going to work next season if it's to happen. I hope it doesn't. In fact, I never want to see that midfield ever again. There's just not enough technical quality in the midfield. If you were under any doubt as to why the club are still chasing somebody like Carlos Soler, that's why. That's why, because it was terrible. I mean, look, in the second half, was it after 58 minutes, something like that, Lucas Paquetá came on, who wasn't brilliant, by the way, but he was a lot better. He still made things happen. Made a lot of bad passes, but at least he was trying to make passes, and the good ones he did make sort of got us up the pitch. But it's really hard to describe quite how poor that midfield was without sounding really sour-graped, basically. It was very, very bad. I said after the first game of the season that Lopetegui's got a big, big job on his hands. And I guess that's it. And I hope we're seeing, I hope that's it. I hope he's doing the job now. I hope this is... I don't want to be playing like this all the time, that's for sure. And particularly given the number of players that we have, and some of them absolutely top-quality players. But when you don't have quality possession of the football, the ability to feed some of the exciting players that we've got, then you get a really, really, really bad performance. I have, on this channel, I have been a big advocate of Thomas Souček recently. I've said it's worked. I said he's been playing a battering ram role. It's really, really worked. So I don't have an agenda against Thomas Souček, but when he plays like that, basically he's a threat in the box and he's a liability outside of it. And he was hardly in the box. Really one telling contribution in the box that I noticed. The rest outside, there's just no point. You know, if he's going to play like that, or we're going to play like that, you might as well get a passer in there. Anybody would have been better. Freddie Potts has gone out on loan, would have done a far better job than that. Lewis Orford, who's in the academy, would have done a far better job than that. I didn't get that. I really didn't. But there you go. He stayed on throughout, and I just hope, as I say, I think Thomas Souček's got a big role to play this season, a big, big role. And I'm looking forward to him scoring goals and important goals at that. But if it's not working, sub him. Anyway, look, it's hard to be overly critical because ultimately we got the job done. And so I don't want to be overly critical because what it wasn't enjoyable. It really wasn't. It was Horlick's stuff, really. We passed the ball back to the goalkeeper far too many times than I was comfortable with. I say I was comfortable with. The crowd were telling you that much. It seemed to be, at least on the telly, a funny old atmosphere. And I think for the most part, Bournemouth probably were the better team. But if that is, as I say, you can do that, but you've got to win the game. We did win the game. We absolutely did. But I think I'd be lying to if I sat here and was all bubbly about the way we played. It was bloody awful. Who else have we got? Jarrod Bowen, largely anonymous for most of the game, particularly the first half. Seems to be a bit of a feature now. They're going to need to sort that out. Can't keep expecting to rescue us with 8 goals. Sort of knew nothing about his goal. Knew nothing about it at all. Actually, Lucas Paqueta, I've got to say it right now. Lucas Paqueta played an inventive ball through, a little chip ball. Didn't really work out. It was a bit of a ricochet. Ball fell to Mohamed Kudus, who'd come on the right-hand side because Bowen had been moved up front. Why? Because Füllkrug had been hiked off, basically. We'll get to him in just a minute. As Kudus shot, the ball came back as a ricochet. A bit more pinball, actually. A lot of pinball. Very, very, very familiar to me. The ball came off Bowen's chest, chin, shoulder, something like that. It didn't matter. It might have been registered as a handball, quite possibly, if we'd have had VAR or the type of stuff that we see in the Premier League. But it didn't happen. We got the goal. Bournemouth are going to feel that they've been done, and they probably have. Really, and they probably had to pay more than £1 as well to get done. But the thing is, his substitutions did work. He moved Kudus to the right, he moved Bowen central, and that really, as messy and clumsy as the goal was, that was what worked. I said this before this game. Look at the goals against Aston Villa and against Crystal Palace, and now there's not been any build up to any of them. There's been all of them have been bitty. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay in games. We're trying to snatch it at the end. His substitutions don't show you as much. He's basically, it's almost like David Moyes' wet dream, the tactics we're playing. Keep it tight for 60 minutes and then try and win the game. But I think the thing is, it's actually working. It seems to be working with Lopetegui. Why? Because he's built a better defence than Moyes. It would be the simple answer to that. Somerville, 2 really good runs. Let me say that. 2 really good runs and 1 very good shot. And then the rest of it was pretty damn average stuff. It was far from the worst. I mean, to be fair, he was more involved than Bowen was up until the point Bowen scored, but Somerville got substituted as well. Actually, there were times, it looked at times we didn't have a bad understanding with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was playing left back. But I mean, it's pointless talking about that because that's not going to continue because Aaron Wan-Bissaka is not meant to play at left back, is he? He was just standing in there. Nicholas Füllkrug, it was. I'll be honest, I don't feel any the wiser. I went into this game, if you remember, I was saying I'm looking forward to seeing it. I want to explore, I want to see more of him. I want to learn more about Füllkrug. I don't feel much wiser. I don't feel I did, really. There were some decent touches. There was a long shot. There was a nice flick on, actually. Somerville wasted a really good chance to hit it over, and that was a flick on from Füllkrug. I saw the odd touches, the odd flick, but he was isolated. He looked miserable and angry, and I don't blame him. Really, he can't. Any striker would not want to play in that system, and so much of what I saw looked chillingly familiar at times. It has to be said, but again, you can't be too overly critical because we're at the start of someone's tenure, and he's obviously going to make us better. Look, Lopetegui's not going to be impervious to criticism that Moyes got. He knows he's in the job off the back of someone that didn't have a particularly popular style of play, despite what Sam Allardyce has to say. So he's going to know that. He's going to try and incorporate some more flair into the team, which is why he's trying to bring Soler in. I'm quite... Soler flair, that's what we need. But it was tough. It was a tough tough watch. It'd be, it's pointless me stringing out this video for any longer, quite frankly. It's late at night. I want to go to bed. That made me tired. I say it's like Horlicks watching that video as well. By the time you watch this, you can know how our opponents are in the next round. I don't. I'm not staying. I'm not even going to stay up to find out. Those tactics may well suit us against Manchester City, by the way, and I just like to see a little bit. I think I'd like to see a little bit more pace and intent on the counter attack. I don't mind playing like that at all if you keep a clean sheet, which you did, and you attack people quickly on the counter. The ball got passed back to Fabianski far too many times, and he's not the keeper to do it, by the way. He had a flap, made a good save, by the way, Fabianski as well. Made 2 good saves, actually. So, look, that's good. We're still in the cup. That's the main thing. We're still in the cup. But it'd be a short video if I just turned around. It'll be a 10-second video, wouldn't it? If I said, hey, we're still in the cup. That's the main thing. Don't worry about the rest. That's it. Like and subscribe. It would be a very, very short video. So I'm telling you what happened in the game. In all honesty, I'm sure anybody that watched it would probably agree. It'd be an interesting post indeed if someone writes underneath that they thought that would be an entertaining game. I thought it was awful, but I think we made it scrappy. I think Bournemouth want to play better football than that, and we didn't let them. So we seem to be good at breaking up the play and doing a lot of stuff. Rodriguez. Rodriguez was one of the substitutes that came on. Really good. Really good. 2 really important blocks. 1 excellent long pass. Some neat stuff. I think he looks like he's going to be a decent player. So, yeah, pleased to see that. But overall, yeah, Kilman and Wan-Bissaka were the most pleasing aspects to the game for me. 1-0, West Ham against Bournemouth, through to the next round of the Cup.